guys, Angie with AngieGensler.com here, and I want to welcome you to Freedom Friday, where I talk with successful entrepreneurs who quit their 9 to 5 job to create a business and life they love. Now, today I am joined by Katie Ferro, and Katie is the founder of Orderly Accounting, where she helps entrepreneurs find confidence and clarity as business owners, and then takes the fear and mystery out of taxes and record keeping, which I'm sure we could all use that. I know I can. Now, before founding Orderly Accounting, Katie was the sales tax manager for a multi-billion-dollar company. So please join me in welcoming Katie to the show. Hey, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good, good. And how are you? Well, I know we were just talking before this. You have 2 sick kids right now. So,
Yeah.
but besides that, how are you doing?
We're doing all right. We're rolling with the punches.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today. I know how hard that is when you have 2 very young, sick kids at home. So we'll try to keep this short so you can get back to nursing those babies. Um, but before we dig into your corporate escape story, I want to hear a little bit about your business. So if you can tell us about what you do and who you help.
My business basically has two parts now. It started focusing mostly on bookkeeping for small businesses. And this year I've been venturing into the online space in helping find entrepreneurs and working out their kinks when they might not even know that they have issues
Mm,
yet. So I'm working on educating people who are taking that leap into entrepreneurship, into understanding what that means for tax purposes, their options, and which one's best for them, how to keep it
nice.
organized as well.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, and I would think that would benefit a lot of the viewers of this video because a lot of people watching are thinking about either starting a business or maybe they recently started an online business. So if that's you out there, make sure that you check out Katie. I will put a link to her website. It's orderlyaccounting.com. Is that correct?
It's actually katieferro.com.
Oh, okay. KatieFerro.com. Sorry about that. Okay, so I will put a link down below to that. And I'll also have a show notes page for this interview for you guys to check that out and get some support. So there's that one, you said there's 2 parts to your business. Is that right?
Yeah, I work with one-on-one clients, and then I am also working on educating entrepreneurs.
Nice, nice, awesome. That sounds great. Okay, so before you got into that, tell me a little bit about where you worked. I know you worked in the corporate world. What kind of work were you doing before you started your business?
My last role, like you said, was sales tax manager of a very large company down here in South Florida, big enough that they had a team just for filing their sales tax returns.
Wow.
And I had been with that company for about 5 years total. In between, I left and went to a CPA firm, and then I came back. And originally, I started out in Orlando, where I graduated from college, also in sales tax up there. So I've had the sales tax corporate experience and worked at a smaller CPA firm, but overall about 10, 11 years working for someone else in tax and accounting.
Hmm. Wow, nice. And so when you started your business, did you start growing it on the side while you were working full time, or did you just quit your job cold turkey and start a business?
It was a little bit of starting on the side. I was at the CPA firm and I had brought in a client that I knew personally, and the CPA firm continued to do their taxes, but I did their bookkeeping.
Hmm.
So and they had 3 gyms at the time. So I was doing bookkeeping for their 3 gyms while working 9 to 5. But the way that I exited corporate was, if I could just, I don't know if I should jump into that. The way that
Yeah,
I
let's get into it.
exited corporate was actually I was pregnant with my son, and he's my first child. He's about to be 3 in January.
Mhm.
I had this crazy South Florida commute where I drove over an hour each way in traffic
Wow.
to get to work. Yeah, and I
Ooh.
don't know how I ever did that. I think I just zoned out and I just got there. But I was thinking about it the other day, how many hours I burned just sitting in traffic in my life, getting to and
Wow.
from work. And so on one of those days, I was 20 weeks pregnant with my first child, and I got in a 4-car accident
Oh my
on the
gosh.
highway down here. It was mild because we were rolling, but it was my van was 10 days old and
Oh,
I was sandwiched on the highway and just scared because it was my
pregnant.
first
Mhm.
pregnancy. I was so scared. Everything was fine. It was really just a shock to me. Like that I was putting myself in that kind of danger every day,
Mm.
driving to and from work and trying to figure out what I would even do about daycare. Like, would I
Mm.
put my kid in daycare and then drive an hour away should they get sick like they are now? Or or would I drive them an hour to work so that they'd be closer
In
to
that
me
traffic.
than in that traffic? Yeah, these and never mind, I didn't even know what a kid was like in a car at that time. So I'm just so thankful that that didn't happen. But what was weird, so the stars kind of aligned for me. I've been eternally grateful since then. But the day after this car accident, my company announced a voluntary separation agreement. It's a big company, and what
Wow.
they were gearing up for at the time, which they had not announced, was that they were selling. So they were, cutting the budget. It wasn't so obvious, and it was a package to leave for anyone who had been there for 5 years, which I just made.
Wow.
So I got to have a choice to take a severance and a bonus and exit. And one of the terms of that was that I had to leave whenever they told me to. And that was still hard for me to make that decision. I liked what I was doing. I was happy with myself because I was 30 at the time and I had gotten to managing a department. I had worked very hard to get to that point. I loved my boss. I liked the benefits of the company, but I just was starting a family. And I thought, if this isn't a sign that I should leave, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So I took it, even though that still scared me. And the last day that they gave me was exactly a month before my son was born.
Oh, wow.
So I I just allowed myself to have like an extended maternity leave. And I'd say about 10 months after he was born, I got a couple of new clients. So I continued keeping the bookkeeping client that I had, which was very low maintenance. And then I started getting some phone calls like, I know you're home with your son. I'm starting a business. Could you help me with this? Or the CPA firm that I had left recommended me to a client who needed some more hands-on services, but they knew what my work ethic was. And so it just kind of grew a little bit underneath me, actually. Once I closed the door to corporate, it allowed those other opportunities to find me.
That's awesome. Wow, man, that story gives me goosebumps. I
it
mean,
was it was very strange.
yeah, I mean, talk about signs from the universe that it's time to move on. My goodness. So, how did your friends and family react when they heard that you took this buyout and were leaving when you were starting a new family at the same time?
um, that's a good question. I think that the opportunity was just so good that it was really hard to ignore. There were some things obviously that I had to work out, like when I started by myself. Once I left, I had to get my own health insurance, and that was right
Mm.
before my son was born. But the timing was all so strange. It was January when he was born. So I was able to go on the marketplace and find myself a plan and be covered with new insurance on the first of the month. And it all kind of worked out, actually. It was a little bit simpler than I thought that it would be. Those things always kept me tied to my job. And
Mm.
I would have, without that happening, I would have definitely gone with maternity leave and see what happens. So, with that in my mind, every day that I spent with my son, those first 3 months, I thought, what if I was thinking about going back to work in
Mm.
9 weeks? How could I even do that? And as it got really close, as I was on week 11, I was thinking, how could a person manage this? Like, just I was so sympathetic to what so many women have gone through and continue to go through. And that's lucky, right? That would be if you
Mm.
had a job that would give you 12 weeks off. But I didn't have any perspective to know. I was totally in the weeds with him in those early days. I had no idea what I was doing, and everything was so hard, and I was not sleeping. And I just thought, in my moments of what the heck am I doing in life, I thought, like, I just like try to remind myself to be grateful for what's going on. And I thought, thank God I don't have the pressure of trying to figure out what I would do for
Mm.
daycare and those kind of things. So it all worked out. And I think it was just so obvious to everyone that I had to take that and then see what would happen after that.
Yeah. Was it hard, when those new opportunities started to come to you when your son was older? Was it hard to take them? Like, did you find yourself sometimes just wanting to pull back and say, nah, I kind of just want to take it easy and really focus on the mom thing? And or did it feel comfortable at that point to start ramping up your business?
It's a good question as well. It all happened so organically, I would say. And I am a very, very big believer in kind of like taking a second and thinking what's worth it to you. So those moments that I had with him, he was 10 months old when I started adding. So by then things had gotten a little bit more routine. He was napping on consistent times and sleeping decently. He wasn't the best, but okay, better than he had been. And I got one big client, and when I was making the decision to take them on, I knew that that would mean that I was going to sacrifice sleep. Not not time with him, because at that age I couldn't work when he was awake. Now I kind of can, but at that time I couldn't, and I knew that what I was selling them was sleep. So I have to make this worth it for myself, and honestly, throughout what I would have considered to be a large number at the time. And I thought, we'll see what they say, and this is what I've decided is worth it for me. And what I learned from that experience over and over and over and over again as I started taking on clients is that your time is likely a lot more valuable than you think it is. And what I give them in return is a lot of peace of mind. So for this one big client, they didn't blink when I threw out the number, and I thought, I might be undercutting myself then. But I definitely took a step back and analyzed what I was giving up, and just made sure that it was something that made sense for me, because I couldn't justify putting him in school for any of this. So that's how I managed it.
Yeah, I love that. Now, it sounds like your business, I mean, definitely has grown organically over time. So you brought on the bookkeeping clients. Then how did you then start to transition to that other arm of your business, this education piece?
Well, I think once I got into the details of actually doing bookkeeping, because when I worked for corporate, it was for a big company. So I was not working with entrepreneurs. I was working for a very large worldwide company, and just in sales tax. So that gave me really no experience on entrepreneurs. It gave me experience on like systems and numbers and people management. But even at the CPA firm, I was still dealing with some higher level services. When I got into the bookkeeping, I could really see what people were actually doing, how they were running their businesses, what was coming in and out, the things that they were doing that were making things more complex, that were really very easy fixes with just the change of a habit. And I had conversations with them. You're using Venmo for your business and you're mixing it with personal. That makes it really hard to figure out afterwards. And we would just correct some small habits, see big changes in how much easier it was to keep track of things. And it was when my sister started selling for network marketing that I took a step back and thought, let me have this conversation with her about her business and what she can do now to make things simpler for her. It's a conversation that I didn't like to have with family and friends before, because I assumed they had it under control. I didn't want them to think I was selling to them, and it's very personal. But after we had this conversation and I verbalized what I was thinking, I realized that this stuff may seem so simple to me, but only because my brain works that way and because I've seen how other people have made some mistakes. So from that conversation, I realized so many people are starting up businesses of their own. And in my experience now, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to work from home. And now I see that there's that opportunity. So I want people to come out into entrepreneurship without neglecting this and without starting out making mistakes. I want them to really succeed. I don't want them to get scared or overwhelmed or hit with surprises that force them back working under someone else.
I love that. Nice. Now, as you grow your business, I'm sure that there's moments of fear or overwhelm or doubt. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, we are plagued with those thoughts all the time. Do you have any specific strategies that you use to kind of overcome those thoughts and those feelings of fear and doubt?
Whenever I feel that way, I allow myself to feel it, and I take a step back and really think about what I'm feeling and what I'm scared of and why I feel that way. And I've been diving deep into just listening to other people's stories and experience, and kind of the concepts of limiting beliefs. And I think, why do I feel this way? What's really the root of the problem? And I've noticed somebody else pointed out that a lot of what we feel is fear. And if you kind of like identify what that fear is, then you can decide how to manage it. Because the
Mm-hmm.
fear may be completely unrealistic. Like I'm struggling to come up with an example. But the other thing that I've done when I get overwhelmed is write down exactly where I'm overwhelmed. And that
Mm-hmm.
helps me make adjustments. I just got off the phone before you with somebody I'm having outsource my Pinterest to. For some reason, I cannot get consistent with Pinterest. I know that it has great potential, but I realized it was something that's getting me stuck in my business, avoiding it
Mm.
and not using it. So I said, what can I do? I can outsource this. And I finally found someone, finally got on the call about that. So kind of realizing where I'm stuck, why I'm stuck, what's preventing me from getting out there, those issues.
Yeah, nice. I love that. And then taking action
Yes.
to turn that around.
Yes, because
Nice.
especially in my online world, I have those moments of like the imposter syndrome,
Mm.
pricing issues, those kind of things. That can be hard. Reaching people, putting yourself out there. And I realize that the more you do those things, the better you become at them. And so that has been my way of handling it. Instead of just hiding, stuck, knowing that I have something to offer, but fearing the message, I've just been getting out there.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, just taking action through it
Exactly.
despite it. Yeah, I love that. Now, do you have a certain morning routine? Because I know a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are pretty like set in their morning routines and live by them and swear by them. Do you have a specific routine that you live by?
Honestly, my mornings start with someone waking me up every day. And I wonder why it's so early. But today was 6 a.m., but my kids are sick. And my mornings are so sacred to me in that I love starting them slowly, that I have not been able to get into this morning routine that everyone says that I need. And I think about it, but what I have, and I it may just be different from everyone else's, I do such good work at night. I I used to be a not bartender, but I worked in a sports bar in college. I was up until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I
Oh,
just don't
wow.
think that I've been able to knock that out of me. No matter how long I had to get up and get to work at 9 o'clock, I never became a morning person.
Mm.
So what I tend to do is start my morning slow, let someone wake me up. If it's my older son, he'll come in bed and snuggle, and
Aw.
then the other one will wake up. I feed them. I make coffee. I take it slow. And when my daughter goes down for her first nap, I'll start working on some stuff while my toddler's awake. And what I usually do is at bath time, I'm brainstorming what I need to do. I write down a list and then I knock it out before bed. So I'm a midnight churner.
Nice. I love that. I think it's important though to point out too that not everyone works the same and kind of knowing yourself, knowing your body, knowing when you work the best because a lot of people are always talking about, oh, it's all about the morning routines and be most productive in the morning, but that's not necessarily the best method for every single person.
I do think that there is something to be said about the tone that you set your day with. And so I like the idea. But like I said, when I was trying to decide how to bill a client, I thought I'm selling you sleep, and I still feel the same way. Like I sleep better feeling like I just finished something than thinking
Mm.
about what I need to do in the morning. So for me,
Oh,
I write that list down, I knock it out, I go to bed, and then I wake up like, okay, what do I need to do today? That's
nice.
my thing.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Well, and there's also something to be said too about this season of life that you're in right now. My neighbor also, she has a very young son, and we talk a lot about morning routines. And her morning routine is to be woken up by her son and cuddles. And it's like, you know what? That's your morning routine. Like cuddles with your child is so precious, and it won't last forever. So soak it up.
Sometimes it's screaming and sometimes it's cuddles, and I take what I can get that day. There's always coffee, and I just don't function before it. So yeah, that is definitely where I am. And they're home with me too. It's worth saying that they're home with me and that the time that I have dedicated is 8 hours a week. I have a sitter here 2 times for 4 hours, and that's it.
That's awesome. Nice. So, wow. Okay, that kind of leads us into a good discussion about freedom. So, what do you now have the freedom to do that you wouldn't be able to do if you were working a 9 to 5 job?
Even something like we had just talked about before we got on this call, as take something as simple as taking my kids to the doctor when they need to go without having to worry about who I was letting down.
Hmm.
It's so important. And like I said, just because of the way that I left and how ingrained in me corporate was, and how I really did like my job. So I just don't think my life would have changed if it hadn't been changed for me. And it's something that I think about a lot. Even though I've been gone 3 years now, I think when I'm pushing my kid on the swing at 2 o'clock, because for 10 years I didn't have Tuesdays at 2 o'clock to do what I wanted. So if I ride my bike to the park, I push them on the swing, and sometimes I like to leave the phone in the car while I'm at the park. Most of the time, I'm taking too many pictures of them, but sometimes I leave it in the car and I just like really see them. I really look at them and I think how thankful I am that this worked out that way and how thankful I am that I was pushed there, because without the actual push, I don't know that I would be here. And so I love watching people who take the leap on their own because it takes so much courage, but there's so much potential. It's
Mm,
amazing. In the world that we're living in now, there is unlimited potential in what you can
yes.
do if you act on it, believe it, and just make it happen. And this is kind of like a soapbox I'm going into now, but I've been thinking, because I've invested a lot of money into my online space this year. And sometimes I get stuck in that number, what I've invested, right?
Mm,
Not what the potential is, or maybe I need to invest more in the right thing to have like a real breakthrough. And I think to myself, I've spent a lot of time, I spent a lot of money. So those are the moments where I'm like getting down, right? I've spent a lot of time and I've spent a lot of money. And I had a pep talk with myself the other day, putting that in perspective of I also spent 4 years at college studying for exams
mm,
and tens of thousands of dollars to get a college degree. And there's so many people that do that and walk away with debt and time lost and nothing really to show for it in today's world, right?
mhm.
But nobody really questions that when you're doing it. And nobody
Yeah.
really bats an eye and says, what are you doing? You've been in school for 4 years. You've spent $50,000. Now you're going to have this interest rate. And when are you going to start paying that 50 grand back? So if we would look at
Good
it more
point.
like that, yeah, if we would look at it more like that and almost explain it like that, then we could give ourselves like permission to pursue what we want to pursue.
Gosh, yes, that's such a good point and so true. Like why don't we view all of this time and investment? Because, and I've seen firsthand in my business that the first 2 years, it's slow growth and you're putting in all this work. And, you hear all the time that online business, there's kind of like this hockey stick, and it's so true. And, it's like you have this slow growth, you put in all this time, all this investment, all this learning, and then it's just boom, one day it will pay off. And yeah, we almost need to start viewing it like a college education.
Yes. Yes, there is so much to learn, but so much real possibility and limitless. It's another thing
Yeah.
that I consider that I really go back to a lot, because for 10 years I worked in corporate. So I know how those pay structures go. I know what it's like when you're dying for the end of the year review because you know that you've worked so hard all year and you want to get that max structure. I was in a big corporate environment, so that was capped. It didn't matter how good you were at your job. If you
Hmm.
weren't getting promoted to the next level, you were stuck in, at best, a 3% increase for the
Yep.
year. A 3% increase. And the costs just keep rising on life. Like, how can you ever get ahead with that? And if we like really bet on ourselves and even like close the door, because like I said, doors only opened for me because I closed the other one.
Hmm.
If you're still holding on, if you're trying to get something running, but you haven't walked away from something that maybe is sucking the life out of you and not even giving you that much money to go on, it may be time to like get real scary and leave. And then you've got this fire under you that forces you to start making sales and to really
Yeah.
figure out what's going to work. If you keep
Yep.
holding on to that security blanket, which is another thing because it's not even secure. My job
Right.
gave me an opportunity to leave. Had I not left, I might still be there, but other people in different roles in the company might not. plenty of people were handed a letter that didn't include an option. So
Hmm.
it's not even that secure.
Yeah. It's an illusion for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well, so what advice would you give to someone? Maybe they're sitting at their office right now watching this at their corporate job. They want to get out, they want to leave. What advice would you give to them?
I want them to really sit down, like in a quiet space, really sit down or go for a walk or something and put the phone away. And just honestly have a conversation with yourself and ask yourself where you want to be and if the things that you're doing today are doing anything to get you there. Because
Mhm.
just thinking about it is not going to get you there.
Yep.
And so yeah, think about where you want to be. Are you taking steps that will get you closer to your goal or further away from your goal? And if you're not moving closer, start changing your direction.
Nice. I love that. Okay, that was fantastic advice. Okay, so before we close out the interview, I just want to give people kind of an inside look at how you run your business and get some of your top tips and resources. So, my first question for you is what book or podcast do you recommend to your fellow entrepreneurs?
So I've been working with Rachel Ngom as a business coach right now, and her podcast, She's Making an Impact, has such
Mm-hmm.
great information really for the stage that I'm at. And she's been helping me so much and encouraging me to continue going on. So her podcast is great, her blog is
Nice.
great, her courses are great. So that would be a podcast. And I have not opened it yet, but I'm going to read the 12-week year. I've heard that that's
Oh,
amazing.
nice. Yeah. That's one too. It's on my Amazon list. I want to read it. Haven't done it yet. 12-week year. Awesome.
I think now's a good time to get into that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then, so I know, let's see, you work from home, correct? You don't do like
Yeah.
a co-working space or anything.
No, but I did actually sign up for one. Like I said, I have the sitter here twice a week for 4 hours, and my daughter's 15 months, and it's the best thing ever. But she's so obsessed with me right now. I literally hide in my office, and I have to text the babysitter when I have to pee because if she sees me again, it's going to start all over again. So
Yeah.
I joined a female-only co-working space that's actually 3 miles from my house. It's amazing, and
Oh,
it hasn't
wow.
opened yet. So it will be opening in a few short weeks, and then I'll be there a couple times a week.
Oh, very cool.
But when I'm
Sounds
burning
awesome.
the midnight oil, I can do that from home.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Okay. And then do you have a like, tip, like a really awesome productivity tip that you use to just get tons of work done?
To get tons of work done, I think just writing down what you really want to focus on and prioritizing that list because some things are necessary and some things just feel necessary. And it's taken me a
Mm,
while to get to that point where I realize this feels like it's really important, but it's just a tiny little detail that no one else is going to see.
yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. And then do you have an app or a software program that you absolutely could not run your business without?
Well, I couldn't run it without accounting and bookkeeping software, but other than that, I love Dropbox and use it for everything.
Nice. Nice. Speaking of accounting software for, a team of one small business owner, what accounting software would you recommend?
So I think it depends on the size of your business, what you do, and what your price point is. If you're extremely price sensitive, and your business is really simple, like a service-based thing, then I recommend QuickBooks Online. It can be
Mm,
as cheap as $10 a month or even lower under promo. But I like the simple start, not the self-employed. If
okay.
you if you are a little bit bigger, you have inventory you're selling on like Etsy or Squarespace or anything, and you are paying yourself payroll, I recommend Xero, which is $30 a month.
Okay.
I find Xero to be a really great software. And what's great about it is that it has all these integrations and it just keeps adding integrations with things like Squarespace, Etsy. It'll just pull the information for you. If you're taking payroll, it'll link with a provider for that. So it's really powerful.
Nice. Very nice. That sounds good. Okay. And then last one, do you have a favorite quote or mantra that you use to just keep you powered and motivated?
I'm not sure that I do actually.
Mhm.
I'm really kind of big on affirmations. So if I'm feeling, I kind of identify what I'm feeling and then turn it into the opposite. So in the moment, if I'm
Hmm.
feeling something negative, like nobody needs this, then I think, no, somebody really needs this. You have to go help someone. You have to get your message out there to help someone to save them from making a mistake. That kind of stuff.
Nice. I love that. And that's actually, I think, so important because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it goes back to that the feelings of the doubt and the fear and the overwhelm. I think we all have that voice of negativity in our head sometimes. And it's so important to combat that with those positive affirmations.
Yeah, and I believe in it in kind of every aspect of your life. Like, um, even motherhood. It's like,
Yes.
I just yelled at my son. No, you didn't yell at your son. You had a moment. You needed to redirect him. You were worried about his safety. Thank God you were paying attention, but next time you could handle it this way.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We love to, as entrepreneurs, as mothers, come up with, oh, I did this wrong or I did this bad. It's like, no, it's not. It's not that. It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
what can you learn from it? What was your intention? How can you do it
absolutely.
differently next time?
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your wisdom and your story. I mean, your story was so awesome and just it gave me goosebumps. I loved it. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I will have a show notes page up very soon on my website with a link to this video, and then I will have links to all the resources mentioned throughout, as well as a link to your website. So you guys can find that at angiegensler.com. And then before I close it out, Katie, can you share, in addition to your website, how people can connect with you and get to know you better?
I think Instagram is a great way. I'm pretty active on there. And if I have anything coming up, like I do some free trainings, some free checklists, and that is always very current on my Instagram. So that is at Orderly Accounting by Katie.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much. And again, guys, so I'll have all of that up. I'll have her Instagram account as well up on the show notes page at angiegensler.com. And then while you're there, make sure that you check out the 2019 social media content calendar. It is 365 days of social media posts planned out for you. It's going to make it really easy for you to manage your social media next year. And then remember, perseverance, not perfection, is the key to creating a business and life you love. Have a great day.
Thank you.